Okay, so let's talk about the basics of audio editing. All right, first of all, if you look up here in your browser, if you're not seeing the waveforms on your clips and you want to, click this icon and turn waveforms on. And they don't have to be on, but I like to see them because then it's real easy to see which clips have audio with them. So here we can very quickly see these have no audio. And you can also see that some of the audio here was recorded too loud. So if we look down here in the timeline, I brought some of them down here, you can see that this clip, this one, and this one have audio that's too loud because you can see it peaked up into the red. Here's where I recorded one at a lower volume and it's where it should be. But this is an easy fix as long as you haven't gotten it so loud that you cause distortion, because if it's so loud that you cause distortion, then you can't fix that. Alright, but these are probably going to be okay, so I'm going to hold my command key and select these three. And you may be accustomed to coming down here in the timeline and adjusting it manually, but we can actually do that up here in the inspector, and it's a lot quicker. So first thing we want to do is turn on our audio meters over here so we can see them. So again, you click there, and I'm going to expand that just a little bit. And as we see it playing through, we see that it is peaking up close to 0, and we want it down at -12. Alright, so we're going to take that, and as I play it, I'm going to mute it while I play it. I'm going to then adjust it right here until it's about -12. Okay, and that's about right. And you see that instantly on the waveforms that it dropped down to where it should be. So keep in mind that you want it averaging -12, but sometimes it's going to go a lot lower and sometimes higher. And what you never ever want is for it to go above 0, because you'll get permanent distortion that you can't correct after you've exported it. Alright, so 0 is the absolute highest. That's why I always say average -12, so that when you have a loud noise like a door slam or a gunshot or something, it can peak up to 0. And that's 12 decibels. If you go up 6 decibels, it's twice the volume as what it was. So 12 decibels is 4 times the volume. Okay, so let's say that we want to adjust the volume slightly within the timeline. We do that with keyframes. So here we've got some music. I'm going to zoom in on this. And we can also change our view for waveforms down here. If you weren't seeing waveforms, you would have to go here, and it's because you had this chosen, so there's no waveforms. If you choose this one over here, it's nothing but waveforms. And usually I like to keep it in the middle so you're seeing waveforms and the video. Alright, so here we have music. Okay, so then I start talking, so the music is turned down. So we create the keyframes by hitting the Option key, and that'll give us our keyframes, at which point we can take the volume up and down. And then we can move those keyframes if they're not in the right spot. So if I go back to this, it faded down a little too soon, so I can just take it, grab it, and move it, and it's a real simple process.
Okay, let's talk about one more
like that. Something else that's helpful when editing audio is the ability to turn your tracks on and off. So you can do that 2 different ways. One is by just making the clip visible or invisible, which will then turn the entire clip off, not just the audio, but the video as well. And you do that with the V key, so think of V for visible. So if I'm clicking V right now, suddenly we don't see this clip anymore, and we also won't hear it when we play it. So all I'm hearing is music. But let's say you have multiple soundtracks, like say you got 5 or 6 or 20 or 50 or whatever, and you don't want to go and hit visible to turn off all the ones that you don't want to hear, you just want to hear a single one. Then there's something over here called solo. It looks like headphones, and I'm going to turn this visible track back on. And with this, it will mute everything except the one that you're clicked on. So now I'm going to click that icon, And now this is muted. If I had 20 other tracks, they would all be muted too. And so then I could just deal with the sound level on this one particular track. All right, so the volume for that is actually at about 40, negative 40, and the dialogue is at negative 12. So we're going to have things that are different ranges, but the main thing that you want people to hear is at negative 12. And keep in mind that we're talking about negative 12 over here, which is our absolute volume. When we're looking at things here, this says negative 35. This is irrelevant. This says negative 6.8 decibels. That's irrelevant to the overall absolute volume. That is just relative to what you recorded it at. So don't get confused and turn these down to negative 12. You're wanting to get negative 12 on your meter over here, which is your absolute volume. All right, so here we've got some audio that the sound has been adjusted the way it should be. If I click on this, then you can see over here in the inspector that it's got some equalization, and there were some problems, but they fixed it. It adjusted my loudness, and actually it made it too loud, so I turned down the amount, but kept the uniformity, because I was trying to match it with 3 other clips. And then also I've got a little bit of noise removal, which it put it at 50%, and it sounded too modulated, so I took it down to 20%. So now I've got a new recording, so I dropped that in here. And you can see that this is already, it's too loud compared to this. Also, it has none of the other things that we just saw. So instead of going through that whole process again, before I cut this clip up at all, I'm going to go ahead, hit copy on that, so Command C. Then I'm going to click on this clip, go to Edit, and Paste Attributes. And what I want is for it to copy the audio attributes, not the video attributes, because in that piece of video I had zoomed in on the video. I don't want it to do that, so I'm going to turn that off, hit Paste, and so now this is in line with the previous audio that I had. So I do that before I even cut it up, so that way I don't have to do that to several clips later on and try and remember which one's needed. I can just do it before I start cutting it up. All right, so as far as editing video and audio down into the timeline, let's look at a couple things that you may have forgotten. So a lot of people, they like to take their video and just drop it straight down here into the timeline, move it to where they want it. But there are some other options. So I'm going to undo that. And if you look right here, there are 3 different options. Well, actually 4, but 3 to get it into the timeline. So it used to be that we would deal with something called insert edits versus overwrite edits. And that was in the old day of doing linear editing in video. And so an overwrite edit would mean that you would put something where some video already was and it would cover up what was already there. Insert edit would mean that you would put something in, but it would slide everything else down and not overwrite it. And so with video, with linear editing, we were often stuck with just the overwrite option because you couldn't slide things down on the videotape. All right, so then with non-linear editing, editing film or editing on the computer, you could insert, slide everything down. So we have those options here. So in Final Cut, what's happening here is this one says, if you look at the tooltip, it says connect the selected clip to the primary storyline. Okay, that is the old school version of what we called an overwrite edit. So I'm going to just click that, and you see that it ends up being on top of the video here, so it's covering that up. In the earlier days when you did that, it would actually put it down here and just cover up this whole thing, so this would all be gone at that point. Okay, so this is an advantage over the old days. Now let me undo that one. And here's where we have an insert edit. So when I click that one, it puts it down here and then pushes everything else down. So it's going to take it away from the audio that you have down here. It's going to take it off out of sync. All right, so that's an insert edit. All right, let me undo that one. Then we also have this one. If I click that, it puts it at the very end. All right, so those are some options for getting it down to the timeline. I find that if I got a bunch of clips and I've organized them to where they're in order already, according to what way they're going to be in the timeline, I select them all, hit the W key, they all pop down into the timeline. Then when I want to add another one, I hit the E key, and that puts it at the end. Okay, so those shortcuts are here in the tooltips. So if you look here, The one that puts it at the end says at the very end, the shortcut key is E. So E for end. This one, insert. This one's not as easy to remember because the shortcut is W, but that's an insert edit. And that is where it's going to put it into your timeline and slide everything down. And then you have this one, which connects it to the top, which is a Q. All right, so let's say that I want to take an insert shot here that has some audio. So let me click back over here and look for this one. Okay, so let's say that I want part of this in my timeline. I want it to sit right there. All right, so what I do not want to do is the insert edit, which would be W, because that would put it in the middle and slide everything down. I want to actually cover up while I'm talking right here. So I've got on my timeline, I'm saying something, I want to use this as B-roll. All right, now see it's got some audio on it. I want to get rid of the audio. So if I click right here, I can say video only. So when it drops down here, I don't have any audio coming from this clip because I'm not going to use the audio on that clip. All right, and so what I want to do is put this as an addition, or what we used to call an overwrite edit on top of here. All right, so it's this icon here, or we can just hit Q, and there it is. All right, so now I'm talking.
So all I'm hearing is music. But let's say you have multiple soundtracks, like say you got 5 or 6.
Okay, and there it is without having to deal with any audio on it. You can also do it the opposite way. If you're just dropping audio in from something, you can come over here and say audio only, and it will just drop the audio in for you. So I'm going to do that again, hit Q, and now it's down here with the audio track. Now, if you still like to drag the video into the timeline, you can do that and also choose this audio or video only function. So I'm going to choose video only and just drag it. And now when I zoom it in, you can see there's no audio attached to it. It's just the video. So keep these little functions in mind, because when you get used to using these shortcuts and selecting your clips up here, hitting them in the order that they're in, you'll find that your editing goes quite a bit quicker.